Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm really excited because I've got my hands on the brand new 40-liter sublimation oven from PYD Life. PYD Life sent me this oven to test out on my channel and I can't wait to show you how it works. This oven offers more space and versatility, so if you're curious to see how it performs and what it can do, stick around as I put it to the test, and I would love it if you are new to subscribe to my channel. Trying to get this machine out of the box was not easy. As you can see, this machine is very large. This oven is specifically designed for sublimation business owners who need to print bulk orders or large capacity sublimation tumbler blanks. Included in the box is a tray, an instruction manual, a large sublimation glove, an extra large binder clip, sublimation tape, and shrink wrap films. Now let's get the oven out of the box. It weighs 35.2 pounds and it wasn't too bad getting out, but the cord got stuck on the packaging, so I struggled a little bit there. There's two other trays on the bottom, so you want to make sure that you don't miss that when you're getting everything out of the box. Here I'm taking the packaging off the sublimation oven. PYD Life has 3 different ovens. This one is the largest and meant for batch printing. You can sublimate a large capacity of tumblers, mugs, glass cans, straws, and you can sublimate several at once. The size of the oven is 14.5 by 18 by 19 inches. I do have their mini sublimation oven, so here's kind of a size comparison. Honestly, for the 40-liter, it doesn't take up as much space as I thought for how much it prints. They also have a 25-liter sublimation oven. I'll put a picture on the screen. Let's get this plugged in. Once you plug it in, the sublimation oven will automatically turn on. You can easily switch it between Celsius and Fahrenheit by just clicking those 2 buttons, which is awesome. To adjust the temperature, you just twist the knob either left or right. For the right knob, you do the exact same thing. You just twist it left or right to either turn down the minutes or turn it up. Here's what I'll be sublimating in today's video. This package came with sublimation straws, which is super fun. I have never done this before, so I'm excited to try that out. It comes with shrink wrap that fits perfectly for the straws as well, so that is super nice. This package also contains an 8-pack of 15-ounce sublimation can tumblers, and these are stainless steel. I'm going to be sublimating all 8 cans at once in the sublimation oven. I will also be sublimating 40-ounce sublimation tumblers with handles. These are stainless steel as well, and I will be sublimating both of these at the same time in the oven. These tumblers are fun. They look like the Stanleys or the Simple Modern, but you can personalize them however you like. Also here, I'm just removing the lids and the packaging so I don't accidentally put it in the oven. These have gel packets, so I made sure to remove those. I've accidentally put a lid in a sublimation oven before. Thankfully, I had noticed it and it wasn't in there too long, but I had the shrink wrap on and everything, so I don't recommend that. I decided to go ahead and clean my tumblers now that I have the lids off. I'm using rubbing alcohol, and if there's little specks of dirt on it, the sublimation is just so sensitive and it will pick up on it and the ink won't always transfer very well, so I always recommend doing this. You can even see some dirt on this tumbler. I don't know if it picked up on the camera, but now that I have all these clean, I am going to go into Cricut Design Space in Canva and put my sublimation designs together. For the 15-ounce tumblers, I'm going to be using Cricut Design Space. I'll go over to my uploads and upload all of my images. They pull in really large. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I'm just going to separate all of these out to make it a lot easier to look at them. Here's all of the images I'm going to be using. These 3 right here, they are going to go just on the front of the tumblers, and the rest are going to be wraps and wrap around the whole tumbler. I'm going to be doing 2 of the Teacher Life. I figured since I'm making a whole bunch at once, I want to make some as gifts, and I might just leave this for Christmas time. I know teachers get tons of mugs and tumblers, but sometimes I like to do it and put like gift cards, candy, and things like that in it, so I think I'll make a couple teacher ones, and then I'm gonna make some fall ones for me. I have another teacher one that I think would be a great gift for a friend of mine that's a teacher. I'm going to start with the easy ones first, which are these three. I measured my tumbler, and usually if you're putting a design on the front of a mug or a tumbler, 3 to 4 inches for the width seems to be about right. So I am going to do 3.5 inches for the width for all 3 of these. So those are done. Those are super easy. I'm going to slide these over to the right here. I am going to grab a shape and make a guide for these. I'll switch it to a guide. I measured the tumbler, and for the width, which is around the whole tumbler, the measurement I got was 9.438, and for the height it was 4.5 inches. So I'm just going to put those dimensions up here. Now I'm just going to bring this down, and I am just going to make all of these fit inside of this guide. I'll start with the bows, and honestly this looks almost perfect. I'm going to right click and send this guide to the back. When I'm doing these, I want to make sure they are as close to both edges as possible, so I could make it maybe the tiniest bit bigger. Okay, I think that looks really good. It does have a little extra space at the top and the bottom, but that's okay. Sometimes I kind of like a little extra space because when it gets into those curves where it curves at the top and bottom, then there's some ghosting if it's not totally flat, so that looks great. I'll just grab my next one, and I'm just going to follow the same process for all of these. I'm just going to make it wider so it goes to as far as each edge as possible. Since I'm doing 2 of these, I am going to duplicate it, so I have 2 different ones, and now I'll just do this last one. The problem with this last one is that it's a little bit too tall, as you can see. So sometimes I do this, most of the time I don't because it distorts it a little bit, but I'm gonna hit unlock, and I am just going to stretch it out. Sometimes it doesn't look the best, but I think for this one it's going to look fine. I think that looks great. This design is just so fun. Fall is my favorite season, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. The last thing I want to do is make straws for the ones that have wraps. So I'll be making 5 straws, and I'm going to go over to Amazon really fast. Over on their website here on Amazon, they actually give you the dimension of the wrap template for the straws. They actually have it for the wrap as well. With my measurements, I had 9.438. They just rounded to 9.4, so I could have done that. But for the straw, it says 8.55 inches by 1 inch. So that's super, super helpful that they have the template sizes on here. I want my straw designs to have these images on it. So this is how I am going to do that. I'll click on shapes and grab a square again. I'm going to make it the size of that template that it said on their website. So for the width, it was 8.55. And for the height, it was 1 inch. I'm just going to keep this as a shape, and what I'm going to do is actually slice out part of the image. So I think I'll grab this one. I'm actually going to duplicate this again since it's going to be slicing out the image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it over here. For this one, I'm going to center it. Let's try that. I'm going to hit slice. Now when you slice it, you can take this out. Here's what the straw will look like, and I think that looks so cute. That'll be really fun. Now I'm going to duplicate this one. I'll bring this over here. I think I want this over the pumpkin spice, so I'm just going to drag this down. I'm going to highlight over both. I'll hit slice. There's that one. That looks cute. Okay, now I have everything sized and ready. Looking at the 3 smaller designs that are not wraps, it pulls it onto 2 different pages, and I don't want to waste pages, so I'm actually going to put those in Canva instead. I went back and just deleted those in Cricut Design Space, so now you can see that I have just the wraps and the straws on here, and it's going onto 5 different pages. I'm going to select Send to Printer. I have my Sublimation printer selected. I'm going to turn the bleed off because that gives it a fuzzy border that you don't want. And I'm going to select Use System Dialog, and I'll hit Print. Once again, I have my Sublimation printer selected, my Sublimation presets. I always like to show my presets really fast for color matching. I have my Cosmos ink profile set up for my print settings. I have Premium Presentation, Paper Matte, High Quality, mirror image. I also have my high-speed printing turned off. Now I can select print. Before I show my printer printing, I want to show you the rest that I'm putting in Canva. These three I decided to add in Canva, and if I go to position, you can see that I set them all to 3.5 inches for the width, just like I did in Cricut Design Space. Also, for my two 40-ounce tumblers, I added my designs in here. For this one, I'm doing pumpkin season, and I'm just adding it to the front of the tumbler, and I did 3.94 inches, it looks like, for the width. For the other 40-ounce tumbler, I'm going to do a wrap, and I'm going to do it on the top and the bottom. For this one, I wanted it to stop at the handle, so I decided to do 11 inches for the width. And for the bottom, it is tapered, which I always struggle a little bit more when it's tapered. I tried measuring it, and it obviously is different measurements for the width depending on where you measure it, but I figured I would try 9.5 inches for the width, and I'll show you how that turns out. To print these off, I go to Share and I select Download. It'll go into my Downloads folder, and what I'll do is just double click on it. I'll go up to File, Print. This is the exact same as Cricut Design Space. I have both Sublimation, printer, and presets set up. I'm using PYD Life Sublimation paper for this. I just grab a whole bunch and place it in the back of my printer. Here's all of my images printed out. Now what I'm going to do is take scissors and trim around the images, and I want to get those black registration marks out of there as well. Here's the straw images that I need to just cut around as well. Now I'm ready to start adding my designs to my tumblers. I am going to start with these that just go on the front. What I like to do is pull the paper as tight as possible and put tape on each edge. Then I go in and add tape along the entire edge. I over tape because to me it always works the best. Look how cute this little ghost image is. I think it's my favorite out of all of these. Now I'm ready to move on to these wraps. Here I'm just checking to make sure that it's even and that the ink isn't going over the top or bottom curves. I've made that mistake before and it causes ghosting. The paper has to be totally flat. Also, I'm pulling the paper as tight as possible. I like to make sure that it is just flat on that tumbler. Then I add heat resistant tape along the entire edge of the paper. I have all the wraps done, so now I'm moving on to the straws, and I struggled with the straws. This was my first time doing it, so it was new to me, but I was trying to pull that paper tight, and it was really difficult to do that. First, I placed tape down in the center once I got it folded over. Then I went in and tried to pull the paper together to continue to add tape along the whole thing. It was just really hard to pull it together and make sure it was all lined up. If you've made sublimation straws before, let me know if you have any tips or tricks. I tried taping one tape the other direction to see how that worked. I only did 4 instead of the 5 that I planned because I was just over it. Now I'm ready to add my cans to the shrink wrap. When you're using a sublimation oven, you'll need shrink wrap, so it's nice that it comes with it. You want the shrink wrap to be just a little bit bigger than the tumbler so it fits nicely with it. I did have one that was longer, so I ended up taking scissors and cutting it in half, and that worked really well. With this stainless steel tumblers and the wraps, you don't need butcher paper around them, so that's kind of nice. I add the shrink wrap to my straws, then I'm ready to use my heat gun. This heat gun is amazing. It works so well. I have a couple heat guns, but I like this one the best. I believe it is PYD Life also. I'll try to find it and link it in my description box. For some reason, I find it satisfying to see the shrink wrap shrink over the can. I don't know why, but it's kind of fun. Now I'm ready to heat up my sublimation oven. I still had it plugged in. You press that start button for 3 seconds to turn it back on. I pressed the start button and it wasn't turning on, so I decided to twist the knob a little bit, then press start, and it started working. I set the time and temp to 355 degrees for 10 minutes. On their website, it shows you what time and temp to use for whatever you're sublimating. There is a note to not go off of the manual because those times are wrong, and it is less than what it says on their website, so go off of what's on the website. Once it's ready and warmed up, it will start beeping. I took the tray out of the oven and decided to add all the tumblers on top of it at the same time. I saw on PYD Life's website to do that to save time with getting the tumblers in the oven, but I think they wanted you to do that before it was heated up. The tumblers were rolling around, it wasn't working well, so I decided to put the tray back in and add all 8 tumblers just into the oven. As you can see, the time is already counting down. It's at 9 minutes and the tumblers aren't even in the oven, so I'll show you what I do with that in a second. I add all 8 tumblers and my straws as well. Once I'm done with that, the time is already down to about 7 minutes. So what I decided to do was once the timer beeped, I would just leave them in for an extra 3 minutes. When it's done, it beeped, and like I said, I left it in for 3 more minutes, and they actually say on your website when you have it open and you're adding a whole bunch, you might even want to leave it in for a couple more minutes, so I probably could have done 12 total. Once it's done, I press that start button for 3 seconds to turn the oven off, but I did decide to leave the tumblers in there as I'm taking off the shrink wrap. I didn't want to take all of them out because once the shrink wrap cools down, it's so hard to get it off, so I found that to be the best way to do it. When taking the shrink wrap off, I like to use my Cricut weeding tool. I just recommend being careful where you use that because I have scratched tumblers before. Now I'm ready to take the tape off. Also with this, I like to use my weeding tool against the paper instead of against the tumbler side. Now I'm ready to take the paper off the tumblers, and I will show you a final look of these at the end of the video. Ready to take the paper off of the straws. This one was the worst with the seam. It just was not the best, but I'll show you a final look of these at the end as well. I'm ready to sublimate my 40-ounce tumblers. I taped this sheet down just like I did with the glass can. I struggled to find a shrink wrap that would work with the handle on there, so I had to do this one. I used the binder clip, which was pretty difficult actually to get it onto the handle. It was just too tight, but this is how I ended up doing it. I had a big extra piece, and I'll show you how it looks once I heat it on. I only had one binder clip, so I decided to take the handle off of this one. I actually find this the easiest way to sublimate these tumblers. Then I wrap my image around the tumbler, and you want it to be equal distance between where that handle is going to be, and I did mess that up a little bit. I'll show you at the end. For the bottom piece, I wanted that space to be where that tumbler handle was, and I was not paying attention when I did it. I had it close to it, but I'll show you the whole tumbler and how I would have changed it once it's all sublimated through. I used the heat gun over my shrink wrap. I decided to take out that tray to give it a little extra space, and I placed both of my tumblers in the sublimation oven. I used the same time and temp for these, 355 degrees for 10 minutes. By the time I close it, it's down to a little over 9 minutes, so I can give it an extra minute or so as well. Once it's done, I remove both tumblers at the same time. It won't take me too long to remove the shrink wrap from both of them. Shrink wrap can be kind of a pain to remove, but that's kind of the only thing I don't like about sublimation ovens. Otherwise, I absolutely love them compared to tumbler presses. Also, that binder clip is so hot, anything that's been in the oven, definitely use heat-resistant gloves. Now I'm ready to remove the paper. I'll add all my lids, then I'll give you a final look. Here's a look at the straws, which these are seriously so fun and cool, but I just struggled with that seam. I think it might just take a little bit of practice. The first two were definitely the worst, as you can see, but these last two were not bad. This one, there was a little bit of ghosting on the seam, and the pink one, you actually could barely see the seam, so somehow that one turned out the best. If I could get the seams to turn out well, they just look so cute inside the tumblers, especially when you make it match the theme. First, I want to show you this tumbler. I didn't have it perfectly centered with the handle. It's not too bad, but down at the bottom is where I really messed up. That needed to be where that handle was. I could have even made it a little bit wider so that the design went all the way around. But overall, this design is just so beautiful. I really, really like it, and it looks so vibrant on the tumbler. Here's my other tumbler. I think I prefer the wraps, but this is very cute as well, and it transferred super well inside of the oven. Here's a look at the other tumblers. I would love to hear which design is your favorite. Overall, I think the Sublimation oven did an amazing job. The colors turned out vibrant, and I don't see any ghosting. I would recommend this oven for crafters who are sublimating several tumblers and cups at once, like if you have a business. It's not really meant for the everyday crafter. I'd recommend either a smaller oven or a tumbler press for those. But overall, I am extremely happy with this machine. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I would love it if you subscribe to my channel if you are new here.